Bowflex Lateral X LX5 assembly video. Unboxing your machine. For this step, you will require the following tools. Begin by removing the assembly manual from Box 3. Box 2 contains the engine assembly and a few smaller parts. It is highly recommended that a second person helps when unboxing the machine. Carefully turn Box 2 onto its long side and cut the packing tape on the bottom of the box using a box cutter. Next, fold the flaps out to expose the shipping platform and tip the box upright. Flip the box over so that the shipping platform lays flat on the floor and lift the box up off the contents. Proceed by removing the packaging materials around the parts. Remove the cardboard tubes before removing the plastic foam. Be aware that parts are embedded in the foam packaging. Remove the protective sheet from the base mount on top of the engine assembly. Next, loosen the top screws using the Phillips head screwdriver and remove them with the wood piece. Check for debris on the hardware joints, but do not reach inside the engine assembly. Finally, using scissors, cut the zip ties that attach the engine assembly to the shipping platform. Do not remove the wooden platform until the base assemblies are attached to prevent damage to the floor. Next, separate the handlebar arms. First, turn and rotate the handlebar arms so that the wide end of one handle can be pushed through the bend in the handle of the other handlebar arm. Set handlebars on the side for later use. Unboxing is now complete. Start the assembly by checking the parts list. The following parts are included with your assembly: a right R and left L decal has been applied to some parts to assist with assembly. Check the assembly for the following hardware. The following wrenches are included with your assembly: a 10mm Allen wrench and a 6mm Allen wrench with a Phillips head screwdriver. You will also require scissors and/or a box cutter. Before you begin the assembly, please make sure to read the assembly manual thoroughly, as it contains important safety warnings and assembly tips. Begin by selecting an area where you are going to set up and operate your elliptical machine. For safe operation, the machine must be located on a hard, level surface. Please allow a minimum workout area of 96 inches and 102 inches, as shown. Be sure that the workout space you choose has adequate height clearance, taking into consideration the height of the user and the maximum incline of the fitness machine. The fully assembled machine is wider than a standard room door frame. Therefore, it is highly recommended that you perform the assembly in the final room you wish to operate your machine. Disassembly may be required if transporting to a different area. Step 1. Base assembly. For this step, you will require the following parts: begin Step 1 by installing the levelers, part number 4, on the base assemblies. Part number 2 is the right base assembly, and part number 3 is left base assembly. Tighten the levelers by rotating clockwise. Make sure to install all 4 levelers to the base assemblies before installing the base assemblies to the engine assembly. Install the base assemblies one at a time. First, tilt the engine assembly to the side and slide the correct base assembly into position. It may be helpful to put a static solid object, like a book or box, under the front tube to align the screws and holes. The front holes require 4 Part D bolts and 4 Part B washers. The backside requires 4 Part A bolts and 4 Part B washers. Securely tighten each bolt using your hand. After all hardware has been hand tightened, fully tighten all hardware using the provided 6mm hex wrench. Finally, remove the shipping platform and set it safely aside. Step 1 is now complete. Step 2. Installation of the console mast. For this step, you will require the following parts. Attach the console mast to the base mount and connect the base cables to the mast cables as shown. Careful not to crimp the cables. Next, secure the console mast using 4 Part D bolts, 4 Part O spring washers, and 4 Part E flat washers. Securely tighten each bolt using your hand. After all hardware has been installed, proceed by fully tightening the hardware using the provided 6mm Allen wrench. Step 2 is now complete. Step 3. Attaching the shrouds. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin by inserting 6 push fasteners, part number F, in the mount holes located inside the upper right shroud, part number 6. Put the upper right shroud in position onto the frame assembly and take care not to crimp the cables. Next, align the left shroud with the push fasteners and move the left shroud into position. Push the shrouds together so that the push fasteners are fully seated. Secure the shrouds to the frame assembly using 6 self-threading screws, part G. Tighten all screws using the provided Phillips head screwdriver. Tighten all screws using the provided Phillips head screwdriver. Finally, take the mast gasket, part number 8, and attach it to the console mast. Slightly open wide the mast gasket and slide into position. Step 3 is now complete. Step 4. Attaching the handlebar links. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin step 4 by attaching 2 handlebar links, part number 9, to the crank arms. Attach the handlebar link using 1 part H socket head cap screw. Hand tighten the screw at this time and let handlebar pivot loose. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. Step 4 is now complete. Step 5. Attaching the pivot covers and handlebar arms. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin step 5 by attaching the pivot covers to both handlebar arms. A right R and left L decal have been applied to some parts to assist with assembly. If you are starting with the right handlebar arm, push the pivot cover, part number 11, onto the right handlebar arm and place the inside pivot cover, part number 12, on the opposite side of the handlebar. Attach the covers using 2 self-threading screws, part G. Tighten the screws using the Phillips head screwdriver, but take care not to over-tighten the screws. Repeat these steps for the left handlebar arm, part number 13, before continuing. Locate the handlebar link on the part number 9 and verify that the handlebar link is tilted forward. Put the wave washer, part I, on the pivot rod. Align the handlebar arm assembly with the pivot rod and attach the lower handlebar arm to the handlebar link. Be aware that the handlebars are heavy from the top and will want to pivot when attached onto the pivot rod. Be sure to stay out of the path of the handlebar and to gently allow it to pivot to a rest. Slide the handlebar arm assembly fully onto the pivot rod and install the hardware. Attach the handlebar arm to the handlebar link using one part H screw and attach using the provided 10 mm Allen wrench. Make sure to tighten both bolts on the handlebar link. Next, secure the handlebar arm to the pivot rod using one part L bolt, one part O spring washer, and one part J wide flat washer. Tighten the bolt using the provided 6 mm Allen wrench. Finally, cover the hardware by attaching the pivot bolt cover. Repeat these steps for the opposite side and make sure all hardware is securely tightened. Step 5 is now complete. Step 6. Attaching the pedal arms. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin by putting the collar, part N, on the hardware insert on both the left and right crank arms. Next, lower the pedal arm onto the collar and slide the pedal arm into the under bracket. First, install the upper hardware on pedal arm and then the bottom hardware. Attach the top using one part C screw, one part J wide flat washer, and one part M regular flat washer. Tighten the screw using a 6 mm Allen wrench. Proceed by attaching 2 part Q screws and 2 part E M8 flat washers on the lower pedal bracket. Tighten the screw using a 6 mm Allen wrench. Next, attach the pedal arm top cap, part number 29, to the bottom pedal arm. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. Step 6 is now complete. Step 7. Attaching the parallel links. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin Step 7 by attaching the parallel link, part number 19, to the bottom of the pedal and the side bracket onto the crank arm. Attach the parallel link using 2 part C screws, 2 part O spring washers, and 2 part E flat washers. Fully tighten the hardware using the 6 mm Allen wrench. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. Step 7 is now complete. Step 8. Attaching the pedal shrouds. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin by attaching both pedal shrouds part 20 and part 22 onto both the left and right pedal arms. Secure both pedal shrouds using 4 Part K screws each. Fully tighten all screws using the Phillips head screwdriver. Next, place the foot pads, part number 21 and part number 23, on top of each pedal shroud. Step 8 is now complete. Step 9. Attaching the lateral links. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin by attaching the lateral link, part number 24, to the crank arm and to the pedal arm. First, secure the lateral link to the crank arm using 1 part D screw and 1 part O spring washer. Fully tighten the screw using a 6 mm Allen wrench. Next, cover the hardware using the lateral link end cap, part number 25. Continue securing the lateral link to the pedal arm using 1 part P shoulder screw. Fully tighten the screw using a 6 mm Allen wrench. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. Step 9 is now complete. Step 10. Installation of the static handlebar. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin by connecting the cables from the static handlebar to the cables from the mount tube on the back of the console mast. The 2 smallest cable connections are interchangeable. Each handlebar cable connector can connect to either one of the mast cable connectors. After connecting the cables, slide the static handlebar onto the mount tube and install the hardware. Take care not to crimp the cables. Secure the static handlebar using 4 part C screws and 4 part O spring washers. Securely tighten all hardware using a 6 mm Allen wrench. Step 10 is now complete. Step 11. Removing the hardware from the console. For this step, you will require the following parts. Using the Phillips head screwdriver, remove the 4 screws located on the back of the console. Save the hardware for the following step, and take care not to crimp the cables. Step 11 is now complete. Step 12. Attaching the console. Begin by placing the console on top of the mounting plate on the console mast. Take the mast cables and route them through the mounting plate on the console mast. Pull them back through the opening. Make sure the mast cable connectors do not fall into the console mast. Take care not to crimp the cables, but do not connect them yet. Next, take the hardware you removed from the console and using a Phillips head screwdriver, tighten all screws. Take care not to over-tighten the screws. Step 12 is now complete. Step 13. Connect console cables and installing mast end cap. Begin by connecting all console cables with the mast cables. Each connector end can only be connected to the matching connector. Make sure to connect all cables. Push the excess cable length down into the console mast so that they don't stick out. Next, attach the mast end cap, part number 28, on top. Simply slide it into place. The mast end cap will click as it seats, and it might require a small amount of force as the slot goes over the tube. Make sure the mast end cap is securely in place before continuing. Step 13 is now complete. Step 14. Connecting the power adapter. Plug the power adapter to the front near the bottom. Make sure that the power adapter wire stays clear of all moving parts. Congratulations! You have now completed the assembly of the Lateral X LX5 fitness machine. Enjoy your new Lateral X LX5 fitness machine. Before using the machine, please make a final inspection. Please inspect the machine to ensure that all fasteners are tight and components are properly assembled. You can now remove any protective covers from the face of the console. If there is protective plastic film on the contact heart rate sensors on the static handlebar, remove the plastic film. Do not use until the machine has been fully assembled and inspected for correct performance in accordance with the owner's manual. Enjoy your new Lateral X LX5 fitness machine. Brought to you by Bowflex.